Hello and welcome to today's episode. So, as you probably know by now, my name is Minnikin and I'm going to be diving in to chapter 3 of Good Girl Deprogramming, which is called Establishing Trust. And the subtitle is We've Got Your Best Interests at Heart. So let me start with this thought-provoking quote from Stephen King. The trust of the innocent is the liar's most useful tool. Think of that for a moment. So trust is a powerful force. It builds relationships, strengthens communities, and fuels cooperation. But what happens when trust is misplaced? When it is not used to protect us, but to control and manipulate us? And that's what we're going to be exploring today. How trust, especially for women, becomes a foundational tool of societal conditioning, and how we can deprogram from this blind trust using critical thinking. I know, critical thinking, everybody's probably eyes have rolled and you've all gone to sleep, but it is so important. It stops us being manipulated. So by the end of this episode, I hope you'll feel equipped to question the narratives around you and start trusting your own instincts more deeply. Okay, so let's begin with a simple question. Who do you trust? For many of us, we grew up trusting our parents, teachers, governments, the grown-ups to have our best interests at heart. We're taught that if we follow the rules, if we work hard, get a good job, settle down, get married, have kids, work all our lives, retire at 65, and then everything will be fine. That is the treadmill that society basically has for us. But as we grow older, we start to see cracks in this narrative. So take the pandemic, for example. In 2020, when the world was looking for leadership, trust in the UK government was just at 34%. So we saw with our own eyes leaders, these supposed grown-ups, dismissing expert advice, fumbling strategies, doing what they wanted. One rule for them, one rule for us. And they left millions of us questioning, do they actually know what they're doing? It was a real moment of, oh wow, these aren't the grown-ups. For me, I don't have the words to describe how horrified it is to know that there's nobody out there that's going to come and save us. We literally have to save ourselves. So for women, this trust dynamic can be even more insidious. Good girls, as we call them, are trained to trust. We are told, don't worry, we've got this. But often that trust is used to keep us compliant, obedient, subservient. It's a form of control that can leave us vulnerable to manipulation. And when we trust too much, it silences our intuition. We ignore red flags, we second guess our instincts, we give away our power. It's like us building a house on quicksand, and we end up questioning everything about us and blaming ourselves when the ground beneath us shifts. But the good news is trust is not the problem. Obviously, we need to trust people. We need to trust our loved ones, our government to a certain extent, but it's that blind trust. We never, ever, ever should have blind trust in anything. So again, critical thinking is the antidote, and this is how we deprogram from that trust. So how do we deprogram? So yes, as I said before, the answer lies in developing critical thinking skills. So these are your tools for asking better questions, uncovering hidden biases, both ourselves and those with others, and learning to trust ourselves. So in the book, I talk about 5 different ways to deprogram from trust. So number 1, do not believe everything you're told. So the first step is simple. Be skeptical. You don't have to be a dick about it, but just don't accept everything you're told. Because obviously every day we're bombarded with messages from the media, advertising, social media, our families, society, teachers, bosses, and clearly not all of them are in our best interests. So one of the best ways to demonstrate this is, take the news. So just watch different channels. It'll have a slightly different take on bits of news. And depending on literally who you're reading it. So certain papers will be quite right wing with that bit of news. Other papers will be more kind of in the middle. And then, news channels could be more left wing. It's like we're watching the news through somebody else's lens. So please shop around for the information that you have. So one of the great rules is trust but verify. So I'm not talking about you becoming a completely skeptical, I don't know why I wanted to say bunny rabbit there, but a skeptical bunny rabbit. You literally just look around, that's information. You can trust it a little bit, but make sure that you verify it, particularly before sharing it on social media, because there's a lot of that going on. And nowadays with AI and deep fakes, it's really hard. So make sure that you get your information from reputable sources. So one of the good questions to ask yourself is, who benefits from this narrative? Who benefits from this story? What is their motive, and where's the evidence behind it? So that's step one. Don't believe everything you're told. Step two is don't believe everything you think. So of course, this one's a bit of a tricky one. Your own thoughts aren't always right. So if you think about it, neuroscience tells us that we have over 6,000 thoughts a day, and not all of them are accurate. So an example from my life is, for decades, I really disliked Angelina Jolie. And it's like, but why? That was because the media had painted her as this homewrecker who stole Brad Pitt from Jennifer Aniston, and literally didn't get to the point where I was questioning the book and I was looking at sort of my thoughts and beliefs, and realizing in the context of Good Girl Deprogramming, it's like, why did I have this such animosity towards Jennifer Aniston, the other one, Angelina Jolie? And it's because I literally, hook, line, and sinker, fell into this narrative designed to sell magazines, to sell newspaper articles. And once I challenged it, I saw her in a completely different light. So where was the evidence that she was a bad person? There was not a lot. And Brad Pitt was the one that was married. So why do we not blame him? And obviously Brad Pitt's going through his own legal troubles at the moment, which I'm not going to comment on. But yes, it's interesting that we always have to blame a woman, obviously. So that's step two, not believing everything you think. And if you think about it as well, our brains are designed to keep us safe. And they do lie to us. I talk all the time about ChatGPT making stuff up, but our brain does the same. It makes stuff up to keep us safe. So a lot of these fears are based on our brain going, oh, don't be too visible, don't be too loud, don't be too much. And that's just our brain trying to keep us safe and small and being good girls, because obviously it has learnt that it's really important to stay with that, because any stepping outside that mold of a good girl will, in cavewoman days, get you banished from the tribe and maybe eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, which we don't always need to worry about nowadays, because saber-toothed tigers are actually extinct. So step three is ask questions. So this is my favorite step, and I believe that there is no such thing as a stupid question. So engage your inner 5-year-old and ask the big questions. So like, who wrote this information? Who is talking about this information? Why was it written? And Again, who benefits from me believing this? So there's this technique that I do enjoy, but it's also very annoying. It's called the 5 whys. So you ask why 5 times to dig to the root of a problem. So, for example, when you're asked to do something and you feel kind of that you should, but you don't actually want to, you ask yourself, why do I feel obliged to say yes to this? And you just keep asking why and why and why and why and why. And 9 times out of 10, it's because you don't want to be thrown out of the tribe and getting eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. It's literally that. You don't want to do something, but you do it anyway because you want people to like you. But yeah, it's interesting. So just do the 5 whys. Engage your inner 5-year-old, annoying inner 5-year-old, and ask questions of yourself and of other people around you. And if you don't understand something, and you go and ask people. Step 4. So this one's a tricky one, and this is why I'm still on Twitter. I will refuse for the rest of my life to call it X because it's a stupid name. So this is why I'm still on Twitter. It's important to learn from people that you disagree with. So again, if you're seeing news from various sources, you're seeing news from the people that are pushing a narrative, it's important to go and listen to those opposing views. Get out your comfort zone. Don't be offended. Yeah, don't choose not to be offended. Just choose to use your curiosity, and at the end of the day, walk around in somebody else's shoes. It's an interesting experience, and who says that you're the one in the right, quite frankly. So yes, you might not agree with them, but you will gain new perspectives and uncover some blind spots in your own thinking. And then step 5 is questioning your own thinking. So again, my favorite quote in the book, and I pretty much did this because I knew I was going to do an audible version, is "You know nothing, Jon Snow." So that's from Game of Thrones, and yeah, we just need to keep questioning our own thinking. That sort of thinking about our thinking is one thing that we as humans, I don't think as a society we do enough of. So yes, making it a habit to reflect on your beliefs and decisions. Are they still serving you? It is okay to change your mind. It is okay to allow other bits of information in. And then obviously I said 5 bits, but do a little reflection every week would be useful. So we live our lives at 1,000 miles an hour. And so if you do have a little bit of time, half an hour to carve out every week, just to ask yourself, what went well this week? What can I have done differently? What can I change next time? Because reflecting on your thinking and on your week and on your wins and what's the opposite, the areas that you're not, you felt like you've let yourself down. Kind of reflect on it, learn from it, and let it go, because there's nothing worse than sort of beating yourself up about stuff that you've done in the past and you literally can't change. Make amends, move on, forgive yourself. So some practical takeaways: start small. Pick one area of your life. Maybe it's a relationship, a news source, or even a workplace dynamic, and start applying these critical thinking skills. Number 2, get curious. Curiosity is so underrated. You can't, I said this yesterday, you can't be both curious and worried. It's like impossible. Again, you can't be curious and angry. Again, impossible. So, use that inner 5-year-old that we all have inside us to ask questions, even if they feel a little bit uncomfortable. And curiosity isn't rude. It is empowering. And then number 3 is make reflection a bit of a habit. And that's the one that's transformative. And by developing critical thinking, it's not only the blind trust that you will break free from, but you'll start to trust yourself more deeply. So what I'd like to leave you with is a quote, another quote. This is 3 quotes from the book in this podcast. Is a quote from Einstein. It's you can't use an old map to explore a new world. So I think we all need to go and create our own maps, ask better questions, and start to trust ourselves instead of everything around us to navigate the journey ahead. So if you enjoyed today's short little episode, I'd love to hear from you. So what is one area of your life where you're ready to question the status quo? So until next time, trust yourself and keep asking questions. Take care. Lots of love.